WCHE Radio.
You're tuned to 1520 WCHE Radio, and it's time now for the Avid Reader Show with your host, Sam Hankin. Sam will offer reviews and interviews of some of the more interesting books and authors of today. And now, Sam Hankin.
Reader, brought to you by Wellington Square Bookshop.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Avid Reader.
In the area.
Bookstore stuff. Avid Reader is brought to you by Wellington Square Bookshop.
Today we're happy to have with us
store,
Gary
and
Steingart.
It's really cool because we got voted best
Steingart,
bookstore in Philadelphia.
Author of Little Failure, published in January.
On the main line.
Gary has
exactly know
also
why,
written Absurdistan,
and the main line today is coming up with their annual
Super Sad Love Story.
Best bookshop.
His essays and short fiction have appeared in the New Yorker, the
and
Times,
I've really enjoyed
Esquire, and a bunch
the
of
past
other
4 years of doing this show.
Impressive periodicals, and he's won
we've
a bunch
interviewed
of awards
3 of the
too.
last 4 Pulitzer Prize winners.
Little Failure
Adam
is
Johnson
a memoir, a book that contains,
Jennifer Egan
besides its actual content,
from the Goon Scholar,
flavors
really
of
Paul
anger,
Harding,
angst, anxiety, fear,
and then
inadequacy,
last 2 National Book Award
self-deprecation,
winners, Good Lord Bird,
failure,
by James McBride, who was
all traits that a good Jewish boy like me.
And today we're
started
lucky
in a cauldron
to have with us
of
Katherine Heiny, author
Welcome,
of her
Gary.
first collection
How are you?
of
Thanks
short
for being
stories,
here.
Single,
Great to be
Carefree,
here.
and Mellow.
I'm happy
Hi,
that
Katherine.
you've got
Thanks
the
for joining
anger,
us today.
angst, and anxiety, the AAA of Jewish
me.
literature.
I can't help it.
So,
it just comes out of me.
Before we get started,
but I said it was stirred in a cauldron of something, but I didn't.
Tell us a little bit about your career, which is really cool, and then a little bit about the
soup.
book, and then we can.
Okay. Well, you use a lot. That's the other thing. There's food floating around your entire book.
Okay. 1992.
What's farmer's cheese? I don't even know what farmer's cheese is.
And also gets into this book too. And then that's 1992. And now we're in 2015.
My parents fed it to me.
And it was a great story, so how come you just didn't keep writing wonderful, great stories like that for the next quarter of a century?
Because I would eat all this tворog, I would grow to be incredibly tall.
Maybe I imagined this, but I felt a little bit
I am 5'6"
story.
a day.
I felt like everybody was saying,
things
you write about unrequited love.
Speaking of rye, there was also a lot of rye bread in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of rye bread. There's a lot of butter. There's a lot of. Why the hell is there all this ham? You're not supposed to be eating ham. I mean, we had
maybe the 10th story I'd ever written. So I didn't feel I could put a collection together. I felt it would have this one strong story, and everything else would be substandard. But I'm kind of a perfectionist. I think if it were up to me, this current book would still be sitting on my editor's desk, and I would be saying, "Let's wait. I can write a better story. I'll replace one of those." I mean, I did that until they took it away from me and it went to publication.
Well, okay, so it went to publication, and then after that, under numerous aliases, nom de plumes, you wrote lots of young adult fiction, right?
I did. It was a way to make money. Because, I mean, I hear now that people get MFAs thinking that they're going to come out of the program with, like, a book contract and financial security, and I think that's so misguided. I can't even comment on it. But I came out with an MFA program and no plan. Like, I was waitressing. And I published a story in 17 and then another one in Sassy magazine, very close to each other.
Uh-huh.
And I got the offer to write young adult fiction. And I was like, does it pay more than waitressing? If so, I'll do it.
Well, and that continued for a long period of time.
Yeah, I did it for about 4 years.
And
I wrote 25 books in 4 years.
Wow. Well, that's right. I think, like you said, you had to write like one every 3 months or something like that.
Yeah,
or even. You go ahead.
I wasn't savvy enough to say, I need more time. Like, I always just took any deadline, no matter how crazy.
That's tough to do. And it's funny. I have this friend who works for Harlequin in the what's the name of the building in New York, the Five and Dime building, Woolworth. The Woolworth building. And it's beautiful. I love that building so much. And but I think Harlequin has a new division of young adult stuff, and it's much less, not babyish, but it's much more adult-like. And so she's involved in that now. But so after that, did you decide that at some point that you were going to write these stories until you got a collection of short stories, and then attempted to have them published, or did you just continue? I know you've been published in various other periodicals, but did you decide you were going to link these together because they are kind of linked?
No, that was a total accident. When I was getting my MFA, it was very much the prevailing wisdom that you lead with a novel, that short story collections are just like not workable, that publishers don't like them, the public doesn't like them. I really took that advice to heart. And so for many years I struggled with writing a novel. And then I was like, I'm a short story writer. And once I sort of made that leap, then the short stories came faster almost than I could write them down. And actually, when I queried my agent, I was just thinking, I want an agent. I wasn't thinking, I want a book contract. So she said, show me what you have. And I sent her all these individual files. And she was like, well, so that's a book. We put it together. So that she had to explain it to me. And I was like, oh, okay. So, I had a lot of stories. We chose the ones that were thematically linked so that the collection would have a little coherence.
Yes.
That much was deliberate.
The one thing that happened when I was reading the book, which was so funny, actually it happened the day before yesterday. I was flying from Key West to Philadelphia, and I was reading your book, and just as I was reading the part where she's on the phone and she said, I found my underpants. I was drinking a Coke when I read that, and my goal in life is always to make some type of liquid come out of somebody's nose, laughing.
Absolutely.
And so I read it. It almost comes to my nose. I snort and laugh at the same time, and the guy next to me turns to me like I'm having a heart attack. And it just was like exactly the right moment, and I'm reading exactly the right words.
What a perfect meeting of like life and fiction.
I know. Oh, speaking of life, most of these stories in this book, and I know you've talked about it, are about infidelity of one kind or another, and usually in a way in which it's kind of not offhanded or casual, but less than the import and angst and agony that would usually accompany something like this. And how were you able to couple, no pun intended, how are you able to couple this stuff and humor together? Because it's like the book is hilarious, but the subject matter is kind of like these people are doing bad things, right?
Yeah. I think, part of it is I think that, your own breakup is so devastating, but writing about somebody else's, you can see the humor in it more. And there's a story it's actually in the book, but it's not about infidelity. But when my older son was 5, he was diagnosed with dyslexia, and that seemed, really devastating to me as a writer to have a child with like a reading disability, and I was very depressed. And then that night, he had a cello concert, and all the other moms were more prepared than me, and their kids went on stage with like this special cello chair and a spike holder, and my kid was up there with the bath mat and a lawn chair. That struck me as so funny, and I sort of realized like the humor in everything will always save me, will always speak to me.
Yeah, it's how did he do when he was up there?
He wasn't self-conscious at all. He just kind of, spread out the bath mat and set up his chair. And, even at the time, it struck me as hilarious. It wasn't like something that I had to look back on. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it just seems like there's so many of those things in the book that come from your life. Not that you're, as you talk about, you're not having affairs, and your husband reads all this and helps you with it. So, I think that's great. But so much of it seems like it comes from your life. Like people who say, I hate the Da Vinci Code, really do hate the Da Vinci Code, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I think... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you don't want to say that, do you hate kale or do you like kale?
Oh, I hate kale.
Me too.
I think it's like something that grows in the front yard that people try to pass off to you as food. It's like eating a dandelion.
It's worse.
Where were we going with this? I got all distracted.
We were going with kale and the Da Vinci Code. I think
that most of the observations that the characters make are probably, I hope they're true, or that they speak to people. It's the actual situation that people are in, that the characters are in when they have that realization that's usually made up.
Well, when you were younger, did you have someone like Haley, who was like this beautiful girl, and no matter what she did, even if she was throwing up, she still was beautiful? Was there someone like that?
Oh, yeah. I always had really close, I mean, there are a lot of roommates in the book. Like,
Yeah.
I had roommates for years. I don't think, I mean, I was like 30 before I lived on my own. So roommates were always this big part of my life. I think it's a really big, important relationship that people don't often talk about.
Right.
Assumed it's going to be temporary. And it is, I guess. But that doesn't mean it's not important.
I know you like the TV show Girls, right? And what's her name? The woman
Very
who
much.
the woman who praised you, Lena Dunham. What's her name?
Lena Dunham.
Yeah. Have you watched Broad City?
No, but somebody just told me 2 days ago to watch it.
You have to
I
watch
like it.
You'll be laughing so hard, but it's so weird. But
you know, sometimes when I watch something where the comic timing is like really good and just hits it over and over, like I get jealous and I have to go to bed early.
that's what.
That to me is so something to aspire to.
Well, they started it out as it was just a YouTube 5-minute thing, and then Amy Poehler and I guess Seth Rogen kind of and the Citizens Brigade, all that, they got together and then they turned it into TV shows. Now the second season, and it will remind you of your writing, but it's just you'll be laughing your ass off, definitely.
Oh, I'm gonna watch it tonight.
Yeah, you should watch it, and you should. You can just go to YouTube and just type the name, and you'll see the ones that were the precursors of the show, which are just as funny. But anyway, yeah, I thought of it many times during your book, and then it's also funny. Like when I read a book like yours, there's certain things that just I'll never forget. Like why do you say Miss Kitty is the only person that has a heart of gold? And how are you old enough to even remember Gunsmoke?
Oh, I'm old.
You're not old. You're 47.
Sometimes that seems really old. They were still showing Gunsmoke reruns
Really?
when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I'm old. I mean, I didn't see maybe I did see some of the original ones. That's horrible. Anyway, so Miss Kitty, she did have a heart of gold, even though she was a prostitute. But that could happen in your book, right?
Sure.
So how come you decided to have Maya and Rhodes have their little skein of their life woven throughout all these stories? How did that come about?
It was really accidental. I wrote the title story, Single Carefree Mellow, because my dog died. And I wanted to write about it, but I thought, this is going to be so boring. No one will publish it. So I added in, I thought, well, maybe the character's facing like a double loss, her relationship and her pet. So I put Maya in there, and as soon as I did, like, Rhodes, the character of him and his family came to me very strongly. And then when I went to write the next story, which was actually the story where she's pregnant, I realized that I still wanted to write about the same characters, that I still had more things to say about them. So I kind of backed into writing the 3 connected stories. And there are other stories that I didn't put in the book about them. They're very interesting to me always.
I like when the doctor is so young, and Maya says something about he's so young, and Rhodes said, "Yeah, baby, yeah, they usually are very young." And the thing about Rhodes is he's such a nice guy, and he's so funny. I don't know whether the way you wrote it, whether he doesn't know he's funny. It was hard to tell. Does he not know at all that he's funny? But it always seemed to me like he pretty much did know he was funny. It was just a deadpan sense of humor, I think.
I think he knows he's funny.
But
most of the time.
Yeah. Well, it's this fact-based thing, and we can talk about that a little bit too. But those facts, I think you've said your father was really good at this, doing this fact kind of thing, right?
That he was really good at what?
Facts, just having facts at hand.
He's a statistician.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, I guess he
that
does.
just tells you everything you really need to know. Well, it was funny because when my editor was first reading the book, she said, "Oh, the men in your stories, they like to tell women facts." I was like, "The men in isn't that men as we know them?" I don't know. Maybe I've hung around with the wrong kind of men my whole life, but it seems to me that they do like to tell you facts. It's not some character quirk that I made up.
Well, the facts that you're talking about, they said here on the radio, I can't say that word, so I'm going to say climax facts. They said I could say that. But the thing is, I felt emasculated by that because I don't do that, and I don't really know any, and it wouldn't strike me to do that. The producer who was here says, I just fall asleep. But then I was thinking, all right, so I came up with some. Like if I said something like, did you know myrrh is the only word in English language that doesn't have any vowels? Or that, there's only 3 words that end in GRY, angry and hungry. What's the third one? But those really aren't facts, those kind of facts. Your facts are like...
No, that's that kind of fact, I think.
No, yours are like what the large...
Did you have to look it up?
Yeah, like the Large Hadron Super Collider is coming back online next week, and they're looking for the particle that actually will explain dark matter. I could see doing that one. But
I thought they found that particle.
No, well, you do in the book, you talk about the Higgs boson, and I disagree with you. I mean, I think that you act as if Higgs wasn't sure. Did he really believe in it? I think he believed in it. You say he didn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess he had to believe in it, but wasn't sure that it existed. Wow, I'm so out of my depth. This is can I give you my dad's phone number?
Well, one of the authors had their uncle sitting in a chair during the interview, and I said, so how do you think it's going? And she turns around, what do you think? He goes, this is a little weird. So, no, you're not out of your depth. I mean, but that's what happens. The facts that are recited to whether it's Sadie or somebody else, they don't relate to those facts, and in fact, they just seem to accept them, but they don't necessarily process them, or have a rejoinder or join a conversation. You act as if it's something post-ejaculatory.
Well, I think sometimes it is, but I also think that it's kind of the difference between men and women. Like every man in my life tells me stuff about the stock market. Like if I mention the Gap, they tell me how the Gap stock is. It's like I've never once responded positively to that. I've never shown interest. It's just. But I think that women do that too, probably to men about relationships or clothes or hair products or whatever. That it gets on the launch pad of your brain, so it has to come out.
Well, that's probably one of the there's probably many reasons that I don't have any friends, is because when I go to a bar or to a party, I can clear a party out in 30 seconds. But generally, the people are, wearing, I don't know, it used to be wearing white belts and white shoes and talking to me about mutual funds and golf and stuff like that. And it's just, I didn't know what to say or why I should say anything. It wasn't something that interested me in the slightest. And so I was kind of shut out of that world, and then they didn't think I was interesting because I was talking about, Franz Kafka or something. And yeah, I don't think it's necessarily sex-based. I mean, it's a good way for you to set up the humor that you set up in the book, but I don't think it's necessarily sex-based.
Maybe it's a sort of left and right brained. There's some it's another one of those ways to divide the world into two groups of people.
But like I said about me going on, which I've been doing about this, the bottom line of this was you emasculated me.
Well, I'm so sorry.
Because I realize I have this big deficiency. I don't have any facts. I'm going, well, I have to work on this now.
Well, something to aspire to.
Yeah.
But maybe not. Maybe, the women in my stories don't listen to the facts, so it's not like you're missing much.
The other thing is, in the story where Haley is, and she has Tony 1 and Tony 2, because I have Donna 1, Donna 2, Donna 3, and Donna 4. Donna 1 is my ex-wife. Donna 2 is my maid. Donna 3 is the manager of my bookstore. And Donna 4 is the lady who pours me coffee at the coffee shop. So I have to always say their number, otherwise people don't know who I'm talking about.
Oh, so you actually do refer to them by number.
Yeah. And that's what's cool about your story is, like, your character, the character and Haley think so much alike that they've already, divided them into those two categories, two people. And
well, my husband's first wife was named Catherine also. I don't know whether he does Catherine 1 and Catherine 2. I'll have to ask him.
Well, my ex-wife's second wife was also named Donna, and my ex-wife, who's really funny and we're still friends, she always said so he didn't have to change the monograms on all the towels and stuff, which is true.
So you've been married to two women named Donna?
No, I've been married to two women. One was Margie, one was Donna, but Donna was married to another guy who got married to another Donna. I guess I probably shouldn't be telling this about my ex-wife.
That's really interesting, though. What are the odds? Now, let's call my dad. We'll give him statistician story problem. Say, what are the odds?
I never figured out. I don't understand statistics. I don't understand odds.
Yeah, I don't either.
All I know is that you're supposed to get hit by lightning a lot more often than winning the lottery.
Or crashing in an airplane. Yeah.
Crashing in an airplane. I'll tell you, what are the odds of me reading that line and spitting Coke out through my nose and laughing my ass off in an airplane next to a guy who thinks I'm insane? What are the odds of that?
I know. That pleases me so much.
It pleased me, too, afterwards. And then I was laughing about me laughing. And I couldn't explain it to anyone. What the heck could I say?
Oh, I know. The guy would have thought you were insane.
I was just reading this thing about this.
Come on, just read this.
I did have someone read it afterwards. But yeah, what am I going to say? I'm just reading this book where this woman lost you. And then the response is, that's a classic male response is, I can't see you anymore. You don't know what my last hour has been like. That's the little boy in every guy. Nothing's really happened. They just get paranoid really quickly.
Well, and I think that women sort of I think one of the differences between men and women is women like to say, well, what if this super horrible thing happened? What would we do? Let's discuss every possible permutation of how awful it would be. And that makes women happy. I think it just makes men stressed.
Yes, it makes them... Well, are you the kind of person so if you have a 2 o'clock plane, do you like to get to the airport at 12:30, or do you like to get to the airport as they're closing the doors of the plane?
As they're closing the doors of the plane.
Really? We can never be married. And that's what happened my last one.
My husband is the 12:30 thing, so we've worked through it for many years now. But, yeah.
So that doesn't bother you? What if you hit traffic? What if you get a flat tire? All the things that the guy worries about, or...
I don't know. It just doesn't really occur to me. But I am late a lot, so it probably should occur to me.
Yeah, do you miss planes? I've never missed a plane in my life.
I don't think I've ever missed a plane, but my car has run out of gas a lot.
Do you have a gas can in there?
No, I should.
I had 6 inches of snow in my car, and I know I must have 20 of those tools to remove snow, and I know I have them, but they're never in my car. It's isn't that where they're supposed to be? Wouldn't I keep them in the car?
Well, maybe you take them out to do some other sort of handy...
I don't know what else you can do with them.
Well,
I
don't know.
I don't like doing a lot of work anyway, so I probably wouldn't do that either. So, you talk about Oprah's book club in there, but I can't remember what you say about it. What do you say about it?
Oh, that Rhodes meets his ex-girlfriend, and that really sums her up, is that she only reads books from the Oprah's book club.
For a while, I wouldn't stock Oprah's book club books in my bookstore because I just couldn't do it. It made me cringe. But now we do. And this box came the other day with her new book club in it, and the outside had this gigantic warning sticker. Do not open this before midnight of sometime next week, whatever. So immediately, in an act of civil disobedience, I took the box cutters and I opened the thing, and I felt so much better violating her rule after I had done it.
It's like cutting the tag off a mattress.
It's exactly what I was thinking at the time I did it.
Why weren't you supposed to open it till midnight? Because that was like
it's like
day.
Like the Harry Potter books. You know, like how kids would wait till midnight to get them, right?
Yeah.
What happens if, it says do not remove under penalty of law on the thing? When I was a little kid, that scared the hell out of me.
I know.
Did you remove those? I did.
Well, I grew up in Michigan, and we used to pick water lilies when we were canoeing, and later we found out like they were protected, and that it was against the law to pick them. And I thought we were going to be like retroactively. I guess I thought that if something was against the law, that means somebody knew it as soon as you did it. It didn't occur to me that nobody was paying attention.
That's generally true. No one pays attention.
It's kind of a life lesson. Can be applied to so many.
Well, I was interviewing somebody who wrote a book about how there is no more darkness, and he was an astronomer, and he wanted there to be darkness so you could see up and see the sky. He was a little overwhelmed with it and a little overzealous. But then I realized, which I guess I had realized before too, is people don't really look up, at night. They don't look up anymore. They don't. My daughter does. She looks up, and I feel inadequate because I don't know enough of the constellations, and she points to something, and I can tell her whether it's a planet or a star, whether it's Jupiter or Orion's belt, but that's about it. And she wants more, and she looks up. I think that's not a good title, but it's a good aspiration for a novel.
Well, that's kind of the definition of childhood, I think.
Yeah. But now when I go out to dinner, and every little kid has their iPad with this incredibly bulky screen protector thing, so no matter what they do to it, they can't possibly break it, and that's what they're doing during dinner instead of talking to their parents or playing some other way. So there's two ways of looking at it, I guess. And also having a bookstore, it's like also I have to worry about that too, because I don't know if the next generation is going to even understand what a book is or what it means.
Well, except that I think people have been ringing the death bell of books for 150 years or even longer. I mean, it was always like, oh, radio is going to be the end of books, TV is going to be the end of books, and books just keep on going. So in a way, I think that. And also, when I look back on my childhood, we didn't have all that technology, but we still wasted so much time just sitting on the front porch, wishing we had something to do.
But you were outside, though. That's what's cool.
But I wasn't running around. We were just sitting on the porch. And we also watched, really stupid Scooby-Doo when we were 18 because there was nothing good on. I don't know. I don't look back on it as this golden age. There was less technology. That's certainly true.
Hey, do you talk about Scooby-Doo in your book? You talk about SpongeBob SquarePants, though, about how he hadn't seen any of those things. Who was that?
That was the minister that comes to live with them.
Oh, yeah. He was great. I loved him. The way he called everything different names, and the way he liked playing cards.
Well, my family does play cards to see who does the dishes. We'll play cards for 4 hours over who does 20 minutes of dishes.
That's so cool.
And if we have some guest who's oh no, I'll do the dishes, we're all secretly really pissed off because we like the game.
So is your family a little bit like Rhodes's family? Do you have names like Magellan and Grendel?
No, we have the most basic names. It's Chris, Mike, and Kathy. But I mean, yeah, I come from a family of scientists. I was very much the wrong baby home from the hospital.
Yeah, Rhodes's family is, really incredible. It's just they're so entertaining, but at the same time, they're so weird.
Well, when I took is it the PSAT or the SAT that you take to get into college?
PSAT is the first one.
Well, maybe on both of them. I scored lower in the math parts than if I'd guessed.
That's pretty good.
I know. And my dad was just like, what's wrong with you? How did this happen? He's like, were you ill? Do you need to retake it? And I'm like, no, Dad, that's really like the best I can do. I'm just really bad at math. Very, very bad.
Me too. I scored way higher on the verbal. But I'll tell you what's an even better story is that the night before I took the SATs, I was like in a slightly altered state of consciousness. And the next day I felt pretty bad, so I actually threw up on them. But it was after I had completed them. And they graded it. And I always wondered about who cleaned it off and did it still go through the machine that graded them and all? I was very proud of myself that I finished them and I did fairly well. I felt bad for whoever it was that had to grade it.
Oh, it was probably they were like, it was how somebody kept from being fired. They were like, I'll do that one test that nobody wants to touch.
Yeah, I did. I threw up and then I just got up and left. And I thought, well, I'll take them over again. So I was very surprised.
Was nobody like, are you okay? Do you need to go to the hospital?
No, I bolted out of the room. Oh, and another thing, and this is what I do during interviews. I'm talking to you, telling you things about my life. It's strange. Anyway, so when I was younger, we used to sit at this long white Formica table, and it was me and my father and my mother and my two brothers. And what I would try to do is sit there without making any noise and make each of them laugh so hard that my father would get mad at them and make them leave the table. And gradually they would each have to leave, and at the end it was just me and my father sitting next to each other in silence while we ate. That was like one of my things that I did. You don't have to comment on it.
Well, that sort of relates to the book because in one of the stories, the girl goes to the pediatrician who doesn't talk much at all, which our pediatrician didn't talk at all or very much. And once my mom said, well, let's not say anything and see if he just doesn't say anything. And when I look back on that, like, what a cool thing for a parent to do.
Yeah, it
my
really
mom's
is.
An awesome parent. That was just like one example of her million coolnesses. But and I think that we did get through the whole thing without him saying anything. Like the nurse talked to us, but he didn't.
My mom had like a basal cell carcinoma, no big deal, and we went to this plastic surgeon, and he was talking to us, and then we looked down and we saw he was wearing cowboy boots, and we walked outside, and my mother goes, "Nah, no way." I said, "No, you can't do it."
Well, my parents went to the dermatologist together and had like every sort of questionable thing removed.
That's what I need to do.
And then they came to pick me up at the airport. So I get off the plane and they look like they'd been in a shark attack. I was just like, oh my God.
It's like
it was really...
It's like a couple's massage.
I know. It's like how romantic. Go together to get all your cancers removed.
Well, I guess, did it get some kind of break? I mean...
Like 2 for 1?
Yeah.
I assure you, my dad asked for it. I don't know whether they actually got it or not.
We went to this other doctor, my mom and me, and he had his diploma from Harvard and I think, Johns Hopkins. And my mom says, "Wow, look at those two." He goes, "Yeah, $50, it's a twofer." He's a really funny guy. He's just like, he just spit it right out. And my mother's thinking, well, maybe he did just buy those and put them on the wall.
And I did, and this is in the book also, I did used to go to a gynecologist who, like, instead of having you undress and put on the gown, he's like, leave your underwear on, and then he would pull it off.
Oh, yeah, I know. He did that.
My husband was the one who was finally said, don't you think he just likes sliding off girls' underwear? And I was like, oh. I mean, I'm such a sucker. I was like, oh, I thought it was part of the, to make me feel comfortable or something.
Well, it's like when you go to get a massage and the masseuse will say, you can just take off whatever you want or leave it on whatever you want. And it's a woman, and I'm a guy, so obviously I'm going to take all my clothes off. Who in their right mind would leave anything off if a woman's going to have her hands all over your body, you know?
Uh-huh.
But I know guys that do leave their underwear on, but I wouldn't. Why do I say all this stuff on the air? Now people know all this stuff.
I'm wondering that. But see, you can go back and edit it out.
But I'm too lazy. I told you I don't work. It's just hard for me to expend a lot of effort. That's why I'm one of your people who want to be a writer, like you said. Who was the guy that told you can't want to be a writer? You have to get up in the morning and write.
Oh, Evan Hunter told me that.
Yeah.
But it was like somebody had to tell me that. I didn't. I was like, oh, that's a really good point. And I remember he told me, well, don't you get up in the morning and write? And I was like, no, I have to wait for the mood to strike me.
Well, plus you were drunk from last night, too.
Oh, completely. All the way through graduate school. And many years after.
Yes, because when I was in humanities in college, I went to my humanities teacher, Mr. Goldhurst, and I said, how do you go around writing a novel anyway? Because I liked it. He goes, if you have to ask that question, you're never going to write one. But that's a really lousy thing to tell an 18-year-old kid, you know.
I know.
And it did affect me a lot, because I was thinking, why did I ask that question? If I'd only not asked that question, I could have written a great novel.
Well, I know. It's like all those people who told me you don't lead with the story collection.
Right.
You know, people just say these things, and then people like you and me really take it to heart. And maybe that's the lesson, is just ignore everybody. Do what you want.
Well, it was like what you were saying about Olive Kitteridge, you know? I mean, who would have thought that would have been what it became? But do you know there was a miniseries about Olive Kitteridge?
There is.
Yeah. I just started watching it on the airplane where I laughed at your joke, and
Wow, what a life-changing airplane ride.
It was. Yes. Oh, plus it was from Key West to Philadelphia, so there was actually a 70-degree temperature differential from getting on the plane to getting off.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry for you.
I would have rather gotten into my freezer because there was no wind chill in there.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
See, I could write. That's
Sure.
You could put that in a book.
Sure, I will, but I won't give you any credit.
I've already asked other authors to give me credit, and one guy did put my stuff in his book, and then I got really pissed off. But it was so nice interviewing. Interviewing all these people. It's such. To be interviewing like Paul Harding and Jennifer Egan and all these people who win the Pulitzer Prize. It's such a great job, if you want to call it that, to be able to talk to all these people. Some of whom are some of the people you've listed as your kind of muses in your interviews. I just can't think of who they were, but
yeah. Well, I really liked Olive Kitteridge. I really thought that was an amazing book, and I just love Ann Tyler. Like, anybody who ever speaks to her would be my hero.
Yeah, it's the woman.
I don't think she gives interviews.
No, she doesn't. We've tried. The woman who wrote Orphan Train is coming to my bookstore to sign in a couple of weeks. It's a really good book too. But now they have. It's like, what do they have? There's Girl on a Train. Well, there's Gone Girl. Girl on a Train, which copies Gone Girl. I just interviewed her, but it's much better than Gone Girl. I interviewed Gillian Flynn on Gone Girl. So, and there's like The Good Girl. So now it's like, I just call it Good Girl. I call it Good Gone Girl on an Orphan Train. It covers 5 books.
Well, but we were just talking about something that made me think of this, that my husband and I were saying about about that I use stuff that he says and I don't give him any credit, which I'm like, well, you're married to a writer. That's the chance you take. Stuff you tell me becomes mine. But he was like, well, I don't know, if I were married to a preschool teacher, would you have the right to make me sing The Wheels on the Bus over and over? Like, I don't think that's really fair. but maybe that's why I don't think I could be married to another writer, because we would argue over who was going to use stuff.
Well, that's like Sylvia Plath and her husband, who I hate, the poet laureate of England. What's his name? How can I not know
Ted
that?
Hughes.
Yeah, Ted Hughes. I mean, it's not that I hate him. It's just that if your first wife puts her head in the oven, but taking care of the kids, and then your second wife puts her head in the oven with her kids, I mean, there's got to be something wrong with you. Seriously.
Yeah, that's sort of long been the assumption about him, I think.
She was just better than he was, and he's just pissed.
She was a genius.
She was a genius, and like many geniuses, was just, totally haunted and troubled and couldn't help. And that's the other thing about writers. You're really happy-go-lucky, and so many writers are, alcoholics or depressed, and that's where their writing comes from. And that's why it's so nice that your humor is so, I don't know, it's just kind of a really pleasant kind of humor, It's just really nice to read.
Do you think that maybe that's like I'm just a Midwesterner without a lot of depth?
You mean you're just, I think it's because you're dumb.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just dumb. I mean, you say that in your interviews too, that you're totally clueless. You did say that, didn't you?
Yeah, I have been. And I tend to write about very bewildered characters because I think I'm a little bit of a bewildered person.
Well, it's like the cranberry relish. Like, do you put that in? And so you must know something about cranberry relish too. Then that must have come from somewhere.
No, actually, I stole that from somebody because my mom went on Facebook and just somebody said, well, now you have to stop posting. Now you're going to have to start posting like recipes for cranberry relish. And that struck me as so hilarious. Although I didn't.
It's like Pinterest or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. You have the one story that's about, you start reading it and you think, oh, here's another. I don't mean it that way. But here's another story in which, someone's being unfaithful. And then you realize they're being unfaithful kind of in a different way. And it's weird because the physical aspect of them being unfaithful is overpowered by the fact that now, unlike... In 1992, you write this story that's in this book. But in 1992, there wasn't Twitter or Skype or FaceTime or Match or Chemistry or JDate or Ashley Madison, which actually is your book put to real life. You know what that one is, Ashley Madison?
No, I don't even know.
Okay, Ashley Madison is this dating site where you're married and you're looking to have an affair. And so you're only dating people who are married. It's really big. In fact, they tried to name a stadium the Ashley Madison Stadium.
Wow, I'm going to go home and Google it. I'm going to go on it and then write a story about it. Wow.
I'm surprised you don't know that one.
I know. See, I'm clueless. Lots of things. I get news from Facebook. Like if enough people talk about it on Facebook, then I know it happened.
That's how my brother is. I think he makes it up, but like he asked my other brother the other day. He goes, "Who's Miley Cyrus? And what is twerking? What does twerking mean?" But I think that's good because his head isn't filled with stuff like Kim Kardashian and Kanye West going up to the podium. I don't want that stuff in there, but it's in there. I can't get it out.
Well, the other day I'm writing a novel, and in it I had a question. One of the characters, their children, is obsessed with Star Wars. And so I asked a question about Star Wars on Facebook, and I got times 100 more comments than I ever have before. Although half of them were like, "How can you not know this?" No, of course Chewbacca was on the Death Star. I'm like, well, can we do this without insulting me? And people were so inflamed. But I was like, well, I'd rather be able to ask than have that Star Wars knowledge in my head.
And it's amazing how, it came out in 1977, and it's amazing how all these kids are so, it's a combination of things now, Star Wars and Legos. It's like building the Death Star out of Legos. I had an argument with somebody the other day about whether Legos are kitsch or not. I mean, because now Legos are being treated as an art form, and I don't know whether there's some reason I can't accept that, but I can't really articulate it. But let's move. Let's move on.
Legos and Star Wars are very big at my house. Yeah.
Yeah, so. Kids are berserk about them, and I don't understand how it's still the case. I mean, it's just I don't know, but the Legos phenomenon is amazing. It's just millions and millions and millions of dollars, and every kid wants them. And these artists are actually doing beautiful things with them, but there's still something about it that bothers me.
Yeah, it's probably growing up in the 70s or where Legos were just in the sort of
Tinker Toys,
mold spattered cardboard box that you got out on rainy days.
So do you remember Lincoln Logs and Tinker Toys and all that stuff?
Sure.
Well, which did you like best out of all of them? And what about other sets?
I don't remember that, but I liked Lincoln Logs a lot. It's the whole Little House on the Prairie log cabin connection.
Were you a Laura Ingalls fan? Did you read all those?
I still am. I reread the whole series, I don't know, once every 5 years.
Really?
Yeah, she's amazingly talented.
That's so funny. I reread the I'm Jewish, but I reread the New Testament every year, and I don't know why. I like the idea that there's 4 different Gospels, and they're all not quite exactly right, and they were written 100 years after. It's just interesting comparing the 4.
Well, do you reread books in general?
I probably read, once again, a great short story writer, which is why it's such a great genre, whatever, is, Franz Kafka. So how many times have I read The Metamorphosis? I don't know, 1,000. What? What? What was that?
No, I've probably read it, many times. And there are certainly stories that I've read 1,000 times, and not exaggerating.
Yeah. I mean, if I have nothing to do, it's Gregor Samsa woke one morning after troubled dreams to find himself transformed in his bed into a giant cockroach, except the new translation says a giant insect, which I don't like. It should be a cockroach, right?
Yeah. I don't deal well with change. I don't know. Blue M&Ms, that was rough for me. And one of my favorite young adult authors is Lois Duncan, and who wrote, Killing Mr. Griffin and I Know What You Did Last Summer. And she's updated the books.
That's not good.
I don't like it at all, because I've read them so many times. I literally have them memorized. So to read a slight change in wording or somebody's name, I get very upset.
Well, now that you're rich, you can have someone remove the blue M&Ms from the bag before you eat them.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Once these get optioned to, your stories get optioned to DreamWorks. They will. And the thing that's good about short stories, think each of them can be a movie. If they can make The Hobbit into 3 movies, they can make your short story into a movie.
But don't you think that...
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Diet Coke.
Okay.
I drink Diet Coke all day. It's very teenagery.
Well, I guess you need the caffeine, but Diet Coke has such a horrible aftertaste. You should just drink regular Coke. It's not going to kill you.
Ooh, I don't like the taste of that, though. It's too sweet.
What about Diet Dr. Pepper? It's the best one, by far.
Oh, that's so gross.
What?
I don't like Dr. Pepper in general.
Well, it's better than drinking something like Mountain Dew.
Well, yeah.
Kids drink Sprite, and it's just like sugar and water. Well, it's all sugar and water, but Sprite is just all kids drink Sprite, but I don't know why. And then they say...
I think it's like your introduction to soda. It's like starting off with the wine cooler and you're learning to drink alcohol.
It's like a starter drug?
Yeah, the gateway drug.
Gateway.
Right. Yeah.
So we should talk more about your book if you want to keep talking so you can sell books, because we're not selling your books.
Sure.
So anyway, Oh, I got 3 things. Let me write them down because I always forget. So the cover doesn't really like talk about one of the stories, but it's a really not whimsical, but it follows your title, which is also not what the book's about either. So how did you come up with the title, and how did you come up with the cover, and did they let you vet the cover or that kind of thing?
Well, actually, we had gone through many covers that I kept rejecting, and I thought, oh my God, 2 people from the art department are going to come strangle me if I turn down another cover. And then my editor is a fan of Samantha French and sent me some links, and I love her work, and even though nobody in the collection even puts on a bathing suit, let alone goes swimming, I liked it. It sort of captured something about being underwater, being a little removed from what's going on.
I felt the same way. Plus the expression on her face. You know, what is it? It's like the Mona Lisa kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really cool. I just love it.
But like I said, if it's single, carefree, and mellow, and a guy looks at it, and there's a girl in a swimming pool on the cover, you know, because look, I own a bookstore, and you know, everyone says you can't judge a book by its cover, but every single person who ever walks into my store, without exception, judges books by their cover. You know. And I'm not saying it in a bad way, like you're limiting your audience, but it's, you know, it does make a difference.
Well, yeah, and I mean, many of the covers that I rejected, you know, it looked to me like the title had been written in lipstick or something. I really wanted to steer clear of that sort of like.
Oh, that was good. Yeah.
Look. But I guess, yeah, unless you do just the most basic 10th of December cover. Is that the name of the book?
Yeah, I interviewed him, George Saunders. Yeah, right. Those were great stories.
But then your cover's going to end up looking a little girly or a little manly, or you're going to go one side or the other, I think.
Yeah, that's how Tinker's was. Tinker's cover was so bare and bereft of hope that I wouldn't want to buy it. But it was a great book. So how'd you come up with your epigraph, and why'd you pick Paul Simon of all people to be your epigraph?
Because I love Paul Simon.
Well, I like him too.
No, I've loved that album for years and years and years, and I really, that particular quote sort of describes to me like the extreme hopeful nature of romantic love. That, you know, somebody else can say, I don't love you, and you say back, but you might. I think you could. I just always thought that was really neat. It
is, and your women want to be loved, and again, it's all kind of nice. I mean, I feel you could. It's kind of cute, but it's also, it's nice to meet a woman who you know, who can honestly feel that. You know, you think you can't love me? I think you could love me. I think I could make it happen. It's a nice way for a woman to be, I think. But all your women do want to be loved in some fashion.
Well, I think that's people everywhere.
But
you know,
but they don't usually use a dog to pick up 2 different guys.
True.
I know.
True.
I mean, your dog is dying, and you're writing. Your dog dies, which gives you rise to this story, and then at the same time, she's trying to pick up 2 guys by using the dog. Where did you come up with this stuff?
That was. I just sort of added the relationship in to the actual dog dying. I mean, it did occur to me that it would be kind of hilarious to have a character do that, and I think that's why I like Maya as a character, because she's so innately selfish, which I think everyone is.
Yeah. Okay, we've been talking for 54 minutes and 25 seconds.
Okay.
So I only have an hour, so I could talk to you forever. seems
like.
It was
all enjoyable.
Yeah.
I'm actually coming to Philadelphia on March 2nd, the same day of this broadcast.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, I'll have my people get a hold of your people.
I'm the only person there is. No, I'm going to give a reading at the Kelly Writers House.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you should come.
I will come for sure. I'm writing it down right now. And then sometime you can come to my bookstore and sign one or come and visit.
To do that.
You would like my bookstore.
I love bookstores in general, but I think I would love your bookstore.
So
how old are you? You said you were old.
I'm 62.
Oh, you're my husband's age.
I know, he's 17 years older than you.
Yeah, he might be a little older than you now.
Don't you think it's cool that I can just recite that he's 17 years older than you like that? Don't you think that's good? Yeah, I know.
See, that's very male.
You're right. I can use that as a fact.
A fact.
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah.
But also, could you, like, if I just said, I'm 47, he's 17 years older than me, could you, like, do his age in that split second? Because I'd have to, like, use paper and pencil.
No, I could, but it's getting worse and worse as I get older. Plus, I have 4 children by 2, and I get there, and I'm like my mom now. I'll say 3 names before I get to the right one. It's all going downhill.
We tell my husband all the time, we should have just named everyone James, because you never moved past the first one. And then, so he calls all his children James, and then when he's actually with James, he calls him David, which is his brother's name. It's like a constant rolling back of never the right name. What are your children's names?
I have Michael and Katie, who are the older ones, and then Samantha and Annie, who we adopted from China. So it's Michael, Katie, Samantha, and Annie, but Michael's married to Casey, and their daughter's Kenzie. So it's and Katie's husband is Michael. So it's Michael, Casey, Katie, Kenzie, which is hard.
Ian could never. No, they would just all be James or something. He couldn't even begin to. Wow, I have 2 nieces adopted from China too.
Yeah, they're both sweethearts.
I was going to ask you something else. It was about. I was going to tell you that. My sons, 5 years ago when they were in Cub Scouts, you get sent this list of stuff that you have to order, like the stupid scarf and the necktie and all this stuff. And I had to add up the prices, and they weren't like whole numbers. It was like $3.19, and these random. I almost got the calculator, and then I was like, no, I can do this. It's just 12 things. I'll just add it up in my mind. And the guy called me the next day and was like, this check that you wrote is like nowhere near. It's like every number's wrong. Can we just go through that? I was so humiliated.
I got kicked out of the Cub Scouts, and my mother was the den mother.
For doing what?
I got kicked out of schools and Cub Scouts and everything. Why am I telling you all this? This is going out over the air, and everyone's going to hear it all.
Well, I think Cub Scouts is this just dreadful organization because they don't allow alcohol. And they put you in these situations. I mean, who is going to go on a 2-day camping trip in Northern Europe with, 56-year-olds and not want to bring a 6-pack? I just think that's insanity. Yeah,
there shouldn't be any organizations or trips that are organized that don't have alcohol included.
That's my feeling, exactly. Well, listen, my dear, it really was a pleasure to talk to you. I could talk to you all day.
I know, it was fun. Okay, so we'll get together sometime. Either at that place or I'll definitely come, except you'll be inundated with people and you won't have time for someone like me. But
please.
We'll see.
Well, I'll email you before I come. We'll figure something out.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much for being here. It was lots of fun. Okay.
It was my pleasure.
That was Katherine Heiny talking about her new book and her first collection of short stories, Single, Carefree, and Mellow. And, we had a wonderful conversation. That was just, it was a pleasure talking to her, and we both could have gone on for the rest of the day talking to each other. Anyway, so that's one of the reasons I love doing this so much. And I have, in the book, is great. It's just so funny and so carefree, just like it says in the title. But it's not like a girl's book. It's a book that you can read and really enjoy on several different levels, all of them very entertaining. So thanks for joining us, and we will be talking to you next week with another author and a great book.
You've been